Man down. Errol Spence, he wants that Keith Thurman work. Stay tuned. Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now, we had a great welterweight fight, Kell Brook versus Errol Spence, both fighters being tested. Errol Spence emerged as the champion and the victor of that fight. 11th round TKO. It was just the last couple of rounds were real rough for Kell Brook, and it was basically a no mas. He was having double vision, eye injury, the opposite eye from the Golovkin fight. I'm sure he's kind of haunted by those things, and he just felt like it was getting worse before it was getting any better, so he kind of had to tap out. So Errol Spence is the man. He had to step up, and he passed with flying colors, getting a stoppage. Some people thought it would go to decision, split decision, things like that. Some people had Brook winning, some people had Spence winning. Now we have that concluded. Post-fight, Errol Spence Jr. said, "I've been calling Keith Thurman out for a long time. Now it's time. You say I have to prove myself and I haven't fought anybody. Well, I just beat the so-called biggest welterweight in the division, Kell Brook. So now, Keith Thurman, you know, come out. It's time to fight." Now, Keith Thurman says, if you want to hold the welterweight crown, you got to see me, boy. I did a video about it, and that was pretty much a call out. Errol Spence responded, did a video about it. Errol Spence said, "I'm not really with all the talking and back and forth banter. Let's fight. Strap up, strap season. Put your 2 belts up against my 1 belt, and let's get it cracking." And Spence said the goal is to unify the titles. He was interviewed by Sky Sports. He says, "I want to fight Keith Thurman next. You know, Manny Pacquiao next. I want to fight the champions next. Unify the division and become the undisputed champion of the world." My thoughts, you got to respect the ambition of Errol Spence Jr. Just had a tough fight. I think Kell Brook was doing good in those early rounds, looked sharp. Kell Brook is crafty. Like the way he was jumping in with shots is awkward. You know what I mean? It's awkward for people to deal with. And Errol Spence being on a 9-month layoff, I really do believe it took a couple rounds for him to get adjusted, because not only is Kell Brook a good fighter, but he had to adjust to kind of the ring rust and being out of it and being out of the loop. I mean, Leonard Bundu, you got to just put this in your pipe and smoke it, as my mom used to say, right? Errol Spence last fought Leonard Bundu during the Rio 2016 Olympics, right? Shakur Stevenson was in the 2016 Rio Olympics. Since that time, Shakur Stevenson has fought not once, but 2 times. He signed with the promoter, so he lost in the Olympics to Robise, got a silver medal. Then he signed with Top Rank. Then he partnered with Andre Ward and Jay Prince. Then he had his first fight in April at the StubHub Center. Then he just fought on the Crawford Diaz. Same thing with Michael Connellan of Ireland. He was also in that 2016 Olympics, and he fought on St. Paddy's Day weekend, had his pro debut. Conor McGregor, "You'll do fucking none," walked him out, and he just had another fight in Chicago a couple of days ago. So 2 guys fresh out of the 2016 Olympics have already turned pro, got their top rank situation squared away, got their promotional situation, and had 2 professional fights. Be it wasn't against great, crazy competition, but they already got 2 in the books. Meanwhile, Errol Spence was on the sideline waiting for Kell Brook to determine if he was moving up to 54, if he was going to fight his mandatory, which is Spence. He had to wait. So I really believe, had Errol Spence been a little bit more active, like let's say he took a fight in December against just a guy he should beat, right? Just kind of like a tune-up, stay busy fight. I think he probably would have even been sharper in this fight, right? In those early rounds. But it took some time to get adjusted. That was the longest layoff in Errol Spence's career. But had he fought like a Phil LaGreco, obviously he already fought him and beat him, but I'm just saying, or the Chris Van Heerdings of the world in December, then he would have been, I think he would have been even more sharp. And you got to put it in perspective. When you've been absent, when you've been out of the ring, sparring with the Charlos, that's great work and all that, but it's different from an actual fight. You know what I mean? The headgear, the amount of rounds. Some people mimic the time, but it's all going to be relative, and it's all going to be different from an actual fight. That's why actual fights, I mean, I've heard stories about, they said Canelo was destroying sparring partners in the camp for Floyd Mayweather, but that had no effect on him looking good versus Floyd Mayweather under the bright lights. When they actually fought, he got dogged by Floyd, right? So sparring is sparring. That's just my thoughts on it. I think these layoffs affect fighters, but even with the layoff, he got it done. He believes I like Errol Spence's attitude. He was very humble, even in victory. He said he gave himself like a B-. It was a cool performance, but you could tell he wasn't 100% content. And that's actually a good thing to me for a fighter, because if you look at, I've met some great fighters, right? Andre Ward, and you look at Floyd Mayweather and stuff like that. One thing that I noticed from seeing these guys or being around them is, more often than not, they have high standards for themselves. They hold themselves, like, I've been in Ward's gym and watched him. He was training for Alexander Brand like he's fighting Larry Holmes or something. Like, it was crazy. And that was Brand. Everyone on paper and everybody in the comment section was like, who is Brand? And this is an easy fight. But he wasn't training like it was an easy fight. So one thing I've noticed is a common denominator. All the known elite level fighters that I've really seen and been around are the best of. Terrence Crawford. He was training for John Molina. I was at his gym in Omaha. It was cold as hell too. But Crawford, he wasn't training like he was training for a style that he should beat, like John Molina, right? He was training like he was fighting Pacquiao or something. He was going crazy, sweating, and this was a media day. Some guys BS their media days. So the point being, the common denominator that I've seen is these fighters who are known elite, they hold themselves to a very high standard, and they hold themselves accountable, and it's like they're not ever fully satisfied unless they have a spectacular performance. They're like, man, I got hit too much. You know what I mean? I've seen it. I see Ward Kovalev. I know he's bothered by even being knocked down by Kovalev, right? He's like, damn, why'd I make that mistake? You know what I mean? And same thing with Floyd. Floyd, he beat Guerrero or somebody, and he was like, I gave myself a D. I'm like, damn, you were dogging Guerrero. What do you mean you give yourself a D? Same thing with Errol Spence. He's talking about a B-. But if you look at it, all things considered, 9-month layoff, never having faced anyone remotely close to as good as Kell Brook, or as powerful and skilled and crafty and stealthy as Kell Brook, I thought he did good. If anybody, you know what I mean, a lot of people hate and stuff like that, but if anybody thought this was going to be a blowout where Spence just went in there and just destroyed Kell Brook in one round or something, that's not realistic. How are you going to be the challenger, fight against the 33,000 people in the crowd, and then on top of that, dog somebody? I mean, it happens sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes the first round knockout, but I didn't really see anything like that because I knew you'd have to work for it. And that's what happens when you fight two great number, you know what I mean? Without a doubt, Spence Jr. and Kell Brook, at the time they fought, they're both top 5 to me. You know what I mean? Even though Spence didn't have the name, just look at the praise, look at what he's done, look how he's beaten guys like Algieri and Bundu better than Pacquiao and Ruslan and stuff like that, Amir Khan. So to me, that showed me something, even as a barometer test. Even though Algieri had losses by the time he fought Errol Spence, Errol Spence destroyed him like it was nothing. Ruslan, known power guy that gave Bradley a concussion in his toughest fight, couldn't find it out and figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? With all that power Ruslan possesses, couldn't fit, and that's because there's a lack of pure skill. He has some offensive ability, but it's not the same. And that's why they say styles make fights. Keith Thurman versus Spence is becoming epic. Like, you know what I mean? The build-up is something that's been going on for a while. Keith Thurman has a creative style, the way he jumps in and ish. And he has power. He has confidence, beating Danny Garcia, beating Sean Porter. That's a tough schedule back to back. He has been plagued with some injuries and long layoffs and stuff like that. So again, the layoffs affect these fighters. I wouldn't suggest Keith Thurman fight Spence right away off of an injury, test your elbow and stuff. But as a fan, I mean, if they want to make it next and he's about that life, cool. But I'm just saying, if I was his advisor, I wouldn't say go in with Spence right away, because you want it to be the best possible. So I could see this happening in 2018 possibly, or unification. Spence have maybe another fight at the end of the year against just, you know what I mean, whoever, Luis Collazo or whoever, a cool title defense. And if he gets past that, this is going to be a big fight. And the thing that I like about boxing is I'm seeing so many good fights on the horizon. Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence Jr. These fights are on the cusp of being highly desired and highly coveted amongst boxing circles and boxing fans. You know what I mean? So it's only going to be a matter of time before we get them if everything goes well. You know what I mean? Canelo versus Golovkin took a little while. It was supposed to happen last year, but we're getting it this year. So I think we're a little bit of ways. I don't think they'll be in the next fight for Joshua and Wilder or Spence, Keith Thurman. But it's to me, 2017 has been so phenomenal that it's looking like the residual will spill over until 2018. So it gives us something to look forward to, and we can have another great year of boxing. Everybody just has to be what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing. But I really like the mentality of Errol Spence Jr. He's like, man, I'm not trying to talk. He did that with Kell Brook. He had his little spats and back and forth, chocolate brownie, man down. But come fight week, he said, what's there to talk about? I ain't got nothing to talk about. You know what I mean? And I respect that, because that's the type of person I am. Like, you know what I mean? If I have a problem with someone, have an issue with somebody, I'm not going to air it out on a bunch of videos and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? I would just try to address that issue with that person. Like my mama always told me, go straight to the source, you know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense to do a bunch of hooting and hollering. Usually from what I've seen, the people who do the most jaw-jacking are the ones that really aren't about that, you know what I'm saying? And you can take it for what it's worth, but usually people screaming and doing stuff on World Star videos and things like that, they're usually not the ones that are really about that life. And you know what I mean? It's the silent killers, the quiet ones you got to watch out for. So I respect it. I understand how he's moving. Not much to talk about. If you really want to, like Spence said, if Keith Thurman really wants to fight, get better, heal up, and run it. You know what I'm saying? Line them belts up. And then you get scrapped and see who's the better of the two. But right now, it's a phenomenal fight. It's a very good fight. I would say it's probably 50-50 on paper, 60-40. That's just my opinion. But nonetheless, both fighters have a chance. Therefore, I want to see it. And they're both champions now. So, like Errol is saying, there's really no reason not to have the fight happen. Before, when it was just Floyd who was just kind of throwing it out there, I think Keith Thurman should fight Errol Spence Jr., right? People say, oh, it doesn't make sense. Who is Errol beat? Like he's saying, you can't say that now. He beat Kell Brook, right? He beat other guys who were ranked top 15, better than notable names like Pacquiao, Ruslan Provodnikov, Amir Khan, and even Keith Thurman. He beat Bundu better than Keith Thurman. Bundu did say that the Brook fight would be hard, and Thurman definitely hits harder, but Thurman's not the one that knocked him out. So to me, it's a great fight, and I understand Bundu maybe feels that way, but Bundu, you didn't get stretched by Keith Thurman. You got knocked down and then survived. You couldn't survive versus Spence. So we'll see. But nonetheless, it's a good fight. Thurman versus Spence, and I see it brewing. I see the interest. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.